Hello, friends. Happy Monday. Hi, Mark. How's it going? I hope you had a good weekend. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, happy time zone, wherever you are. I hope the weather's okay. And I hope you had a good weekend. We had a really nice, sunny, and warm weekend here in British Columbia. And it was just so enjoyable just being outside and going for walks. And it's like, the start of spring is always like that, where you're like, coming out of hibernation from the winter. Hi, Fuzzy Turnip. How's it going? VH2D, good morning. Sick of the wind and weeds. Yeah, just sick of having wintry weather, cold, snow, wet, whatever you want to, whatever your winter is like. As soon as the seasons start to change, it's always, it's always so nice and comforting. Always time to take out your stationery, take out your supplies, do some spring cleaning. Last week I went through all of my supplies, like my markers, and just, pens that you stick into a pen cup or into a pen pouch or something, and they just kind of sit there. And every year in spring, I like to take everything out, swatch everything, make sure it's working, make sure I'm still using the supply. If not, time to move on. Just kind of refresh my space as well. And I feel like that's really welcome in the spring. A new sort of feeling in your own space. If you need to move things around and kind of freshen things up, it's always a nice time to do it. So it's your birthday today, Mark. Awesome. Happy birthday from all of us. Well, what are you up to? Or did you already celebrate over the weekend? Hopefully it will be good. Yeah. Sending good vibes for your birthday. Super dry in Colorado. Oh, man. Maybe you need some of our rain. Hey, Bailey. How's it going, friend? Kind of lurking as I get stuff done. No worries. You're always welcome to lurk and just hang out and, be here. Keep us company, too. I don't love Mondays. Mondays are a little bit tough, I'm not going to lie. Mondays are a little tough. Weekends are a lot with kids, especially when it's nice out, right? Like we're out doing things and, so much stuff. And I feel like Mondays they're in school. It's kind of time to come down from a weekend of just doing all of the things. And I don't know. For me, it's kind of this helps though. Streaming helps because it's like, it sort of forces me to take a step back, do something creative instead of jumping into chores and jumping into, the things I have to do on Monday mornings. So this really helps. So thank you for being here regardless. And it kind of lets me take a step back and, chill out a little bit, relax, try and take it easy on a Monday. And then hopefully the rest of the week sort of follows that vibe. So Colorado's basically a tinderbox right now. That is not good. Yeah, that is not good. I'm writing down that flower guidebook. Yes, this is a really good one. There's two books that I have in my collection. This one's Flower Color Guide, and then the other one is called Flower Color Theory. And it's similar sort of idea behind both books. They're sort of coffee table books or books that you might, just have lying around. And when inspiration strikes or when you kind of, are in the mood of flipping through a book just full of flowers, full of color, it's a really good one. I like it as a reference book to draw from, but, it's kind of meant for anything that's flower related. So if you're into flower arrangements and you want to sort of pick out flowers to arrange a bouquet or something, it has kind of that information that you might need in terms of seasonality of the flowers, where you might find them, and whether or not they're kind of the attention, the flowers that you would want to put in a bouquet for attention versus fillers or, to add a little bit of depth to your bouquet. So that's a good one. And we are going to use this to do some drawing practice today, which is my usual Mondays now. My Monday stream is basically flower drawing practice. So we're going to practice drawing flowers from a reference photo. And the reason why I like to do this as much as I can is because it sort of allows me to break down reference photos in terms of shapes, basic lines, color as well. And in practicing that, it sort of helps with muscle memory. And later, if I want to draw abstract flowers or just from memory, I just want to kind of play with my supplies or paint, then I can kind of take from, something I've seen in the past, something I've seen in reference photos, and that actually pulls from memory. So it's a great way of doing it just by looking at a book, or, if you find photos online, Pinterest or wherever, that you really like. I highly recommend trying to do this, drawing from reference and basically trying to mimic or copy what you see. And it's fun, and it's also less pressure, I think, to try and come up with something from your imagination. So I really enjoy it. So we're going to do it together today. It's cold. Oh no. -5 Celsius. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's freezing temps right there. Morning, Indy. How's it going? Do you mind if I share the link to that video? Which one? I should practice drawing on a more consistent basis. Yeah. Hi, Spicy. How's it going? I get why you love Tasha Kurocha. Oh, the hoarder in me wants to hoard it now. Oh, no. Oh, of course, Bailey. Yeah, no problem. You can share that. Send your BC twin to Colorado, right? Yeah. I think this week we're kind of having overcast / cooler temperatures. So, morning, Jacqueline. How's it going? Are you ready for Chicago? Your inner self is crying. Yeah, no problem, Bailey. Always. Check out Bailey's link on accessibility at pen shows. That's awesome. I'm going to save this so I can watch this afterwards. Let me just... Boom. Thanks for putting that together, Bailey. Important stuff, I think. For sure. And anyone who went to the little craft fest, let us know how it was. I saw photos and video over the weekend. Seemed like a very, very busy and fun fest. Hopefully, wasn't no major problems or no major sort of issues came up. But from what I could tell anyways, from what was shared, it seemed like a fun time. Seemed very popular. And hopefully it was a success, and all those things, and because you want these fests and stationery events to continue with improvements where they can, but if it's something that the community really enjoys, which it seems like, then it's kind of nice to have that be an annual thing. You love cha so much. Okay, I gotta look this up. Tacha. Let's see what this ink is all about. Is it this one? Let's see. Is it this one? Because that is pretty. Dark chocolate brown. That is very chocolatey. Oop. I like it. Oh yeah, that is dark. Very nice. Yeah, among the dark family. I was so busy I forgot to get Pilot Idaho and more Tsukushi bottles. The local FB shop took his retirement. Oh, that sucks, Spicy Miso. Oh no. I've never tried it, Bailey. It looks really nice. It's not this one. Okay. Oh, here we go. Oh, another... Well, this is a nice brown too, though. This one's a lighter, medium dark with a bit of red undertone. Ooh, I like the red undertone. That is nice, but it's still brown, so that's nice. It's not like, yeah, some of these other ones, they go a little bit closer to like warmer rusty brown or reddish brown. It's a nice in between for sure. I like both of these browns. Just means I need more Tasha inks in my collection, I think. You prefer it over ancient brown. Yeah, I've had a sample of that before. I don't have the actual ink. You guys and your browns. Fountain pen use. It's just like, I'm out. I'm resisting getting a bottle of Velvet Black Gold by Diatramentis. Why, VH2D? Why are you resisting? What's Black Velvet Gold? My goodness, that sounds really nice. That sounds luxe. Diatramentis. It's taking a while to open. Let's see. Ooh. Let's try again. Here we go. Is it this one? Whoa. Pearlescent? Maybe. Velvet Black Gold. Is it this one? Yeah. My goodness. Yeah, metallic. Ooh. That's some sheen. That is some sheen. It's gorgeous to write with, yeah. Love red browns, brown pinks, ginger browns, like ginger chicken. Brown inks rule the world. I mean, that's from you, Spicy Miso. Wow. So not magenta? Ancient copper is quite fascinating. Depending on the nib, you get different colors. Oh, yeah. Interesting. The finer nibs are orange and thicker nibs shades to brown. Oh, that is interesting. Had to buy an IKEA, Alex, to store all my ink. Wow, it was $230. My goodness, yeah. That's called a serious ink collection. When you get to that point where you're like, you know what? I have to actually get storage for this instead of just being able to put it on your bookshelf or wherever. I have a whole drawer for it. If you have ginger chicken, honestly, no need to get on ancient copper. Yeah, I think that's my kind of take to it too. Is I really like ginger chicken. So, you know, the ones that are similar to that, I'm kind of like, I don't really need it. I don't really need something that's similar to like a reddish, orangish, right? Yeah. They have velvet black copper. That is super nice too. Yeah, definitely the metallic ones. I don't know if I would necessarily write with it too much, but it's definitely very nice. I do love Sailor Akibi, but Yeah, if Akibi was gone, Yamamoto would be the good option. All right. Yamamoto's fine too. We're allowed to have Yamamoto. I'm kidding. Yeah, we have preferences, and then it's like, if not that, then, there's obviously shades that are similar enough that, unless it's one that's just a one-off, you love the shade, you love the flow, the shading, or something like that, like combinations that work really well. Okay, so as we keep chatting, I'm just gonna prep my notebooks. The two notebooks that I'm using today that for drawing practice is the Canopus note from Yamamoto paper, and then also MD paper cotton notebook. So I'm going to do two versions of the same photo, like the same drawing. And for the first one, I'm going to use markers. So I'm going to use Tombow dual brush pens, and a technique with a colorless blender to kind of get like a painted watercolor effect. So that kind of softens the lines, especially when you're coloring with markers. And then in the MD cotton notebook, I'm going to use coloring pencils. So these are Tombow Irojiten colored pencils. Because cotton notebook or cotton paper in general, I find handles graphite or pencils really, really well. There's just something about feel of a pencil on cotton paper. It gives you that nice feedback. It's smooth and soft, but it's not coated. Like it doesn't just glide like butter. It sort of catches a little bit on fibers, but in a soft way so that, you can play around with blending and colors and softer and, more vibrant tones as well. So, we're just going to kind of get into it and see what we can create, I guess. But I picked something along the lines of orange because I haven't done an orange flower lately. I've kind of been sticking to spring and also a little bit of fall just by chance, those kind of color palettes. So I want to sort of jump back into bright, vibrant orange yellow tones. So that's why I picked this. It's a Ranunculus double orange. You'll find it in winter and spring. So it's very, very pretty. We're going to try doing this and mimic the lines and try and capture these colors, which are really, really nice. So first, I just started using my Canopus note. I got this at the SF Pen Show last year from Yamamoto Papers, and this is their paper that they've formulated or created. It's a blank notebook, so it's great for drawing in or sketching in, or you can use a guide sheet which they throw into the notebook as well, so it's included. So you can use that for writing, but I found that the texture or the feel of the paper is really nice for drawing or for creating art, and also some light painting. So that's what I've decided to use this notebook for. And so far I've been really enjoying it in terms of what it feels like to draw and sort of play around with color on the pages. Akibi is fun, but it sheens a lot. Yeah. Maybe that's why I don't have a bottle of it. You have Pilot Yamamoto, okay. Tons of cartridges, which will eventually be filled with Akibi. I mean, you can go either way, right? I think those two inks are really nice that I probably would prefer Akibi over Yamamoto, but yeah, I mean either or Waringo Cheshire Cat, which I actually have a bottle of, so I'm good. As a minimal magenta ink user, when I do get a bottle of something like that, I'm happy with it and it's fine. And That's all I kind of need, but I wouldn't, I wouldn't say no to Akebi or Yamamoto though. They're really nice shades. But I do know what you mean, Spicy Miso, about the sheen on Akebi. It's quite a bit. Put more. So what I'm doing, if you haven't seen me do this before, is I'm just transferring some color from the markers of choice. So I picked out 4 colors that I kind of think represent the palette that I see on this page. And I don't like to be super precise. Like it doesn't have to be exactly those colors. It's just my sort of way of playing with the different colors that I have and trying to use colors that I may not use normally, that I might not reach for on a regular basis. So just kind of playing with different colors that I have. And so I kind of, try and represent as much as I can and transfer the colors onto this Tombow blending palette, which allows you to transfer this color then onto paper. So you can mix it, you can blend it. And the way you can transfer color off of a blending sheet or blending palette onto regular paper is using a paintbrush and water, right? So you can paint this way. But the other way you can do it, which is probably less messy or less cleanup, is by using this colorless blender. And sometimes if you get a 10 pack or a marker set from Tombow, sometimes it has this as one of the markers. And a lot of times, you kind of look at it like it has no color. Like, what do I use this for? Especially if you kind of get the markers for like hand lettering or something like that. But this is actually one of the most probably underrated markers that is actually really, really useful. And so one of the ways you can use this is by transferring color onto this colorless tip and then using that to color something in. So you can use it for hand lettering if you want, or you can use it for some soft colors. And so essentially what you do is you kind of pick up the color onto the tip. So you can see it's there now. And then you transfer it onto the paper. So I'm going to start with the lighter color and basically just color in an outline of what I see. So not spending too much time on detail, but just kind of figuring out where this flower is going to sit. And then adding in the different shapes of the petals as I see them, and not worrying too much if it looks exactly like that, because again, this is just practice. And the whole point is just to try and mimic the shapes and the lines that I see. So it doesn't have to look exactly like what I see. But you'll find the more you kind of practice this, the more your eye is aware of how those shapes are formed. And I find it not only easier, but it just tends to look better to me as well. Because I sort of feel like, I captured what I think I'm seeing. So as much as we would love to do this for the first time and make it look really, really good, it is definitely about practice, doing this over and over and over again, and trusting that you're going to eventually get to a place where you feel comfortable and confident about what you're seeing and what you're capturing. And it doesn't always work out like that. Sometimes I kind of have to take a step back and be like, you know what, it's fine, I had fun, let's move on. And sometimes I create something and it surprises me even in terms of like, okay, like that is what I saw. It looks great. But I try not to focus too much on that, because there's always room to practice. There's always room to improve in terms of how you capture lines and how you make things look. So that's why it's important to set aside time to do something like this, which is why I do it on stream, because otherwise I might come up with an excuse to not do it, just to, you know, do other things. But I feel like something, especially for us creative people, making time to just practice and not necessarily doing it for others, even though, you know, I guess streaming is kind of, we're all together in this, but you can do it on your own time and no one has to see it. So, this lightest color here, it's just kind of the base of what I want the colors to actually look like. So think of it as like layer 1, and then you can sort of layer more color on top of that. So that's why I start with the lightest color, because then I can create the shapes that I want this to take up. And then I can use the darker colors to add a little bit of depth and make it look a little bit more 3D, make it look a little bit more realistic if I can. And yeah, if I spent a lot of time on this, I could make it look probably a little bit more realistic, but just spending a little bit of time to practice, I think is helpful. So. Your experience with Sailor inks is that they sheen a lot, Spicy? Is it mostly Banyo inks that are the sheeners, or is it sort of across the board? I feel like Sailor Ink Studio, the ones that I have at least, are shaders. But that is interesting if like each sort of line has their own like characteristics, or you know what they're known for. Yeah. Hi, Magical Quill. Yeah, you get in time for the flowers today. I just started. You're in this with us. You were off doing chart. What is the blender brush? Oh, it's the colorless blender. Yeah, you don't know what it's for. Yeah, the colorless blender is essentially used to pick up color. So it has no color, but it mimics their brush pens. So it's wet, like it's water-based brush, a brush pen, but it has no color on it. So essentially, what you do with it is you add color to it. So you pick up color off of a blending palette, or if you have a laminated sheet, something that's shiny that you can draw on, but it's not going to absorb the color, that's what you want to use. And so if you add color from regular water-based brush pens or markers onto your blending palette, you can then pick up that color with a colorless blender. And then once you do, you then transfer that color onto your paper. So you can use it for coloring in, or like what I'm doing is just kind of layering color on top of each other. The more you use it, the more the color transfers off your brush tip. So it's essentially like self-cleaning. And if you have color left over on it and you don't want it, you don't want it to have green or whatever the color is, you just kind of keep working it off by rotating and coloring onto a blending palette. Or you could do it on a marker paper or something like that. And what you'll see is that color just kind of fading off. And once you do that, you can pick up another color. So you can use this as long as, you're maintaining it and it doesn't fray or, whatever. Essentially, as long as you can use a regular marker or brush pen. And you keep using it over and over again. And it is the same as a dual brush pen in that it has dual tips. So one is a broad brush tip and the other is like a bullet fine liner tip. So if you're adding little details, which I might as I go, then it's helpful for that. So that's the Colorless blender, which I don't like. I've been using Tombow brush pens for 10 plus years, and it's only been in the last few years where I actually took out the Colorless blender and I was like, you know what, I need to figure out techniques to use this, because there's so many different ways you can apply something like this. And since I love using a paintbrush, I love that painted watercolor effect, and the look of soft colors on paper. This is kind of perfect for me because I love that, softer kind of look. Hi Hellcat, how's it going? How was your weekend? The gentle line went to the Shikuri line. Tons of sheeners there. Oh, okay. My experience might be slightly different since I write in block letters. Yeah, that's true. Depending on how you use it as well. You will have some Manyo inks next Saturday. That's exciting, Hellcat. You recommend a Kiwi since I'm a big... The other darker burgundy and purple on that line look bangers, yeah. Ume is very pretty. I have a sample of that. Yeah. I don't know if I've come across a Sailor ink where I was like, maybe I have, where I was like, I don't like this. Like some of them I may not use again, just because I have alternatives that kind of, satisfy my need for that color or that shade. But I don't know if I've come across one that turned me off, like where I was kind of like, oh, this is not good. I'm trying to think, but I think for the most part anyways, I haven't tried all of the Sailor inks ever, but for the most part, the ones that I have seen. Zodiac Penko, how's it going, friend? Bart, you've been busy. Thanks so much for the sub. I appreciate you. How have you been? And are you prepping for the pen show? And how's that going? I'm sure it's very busy. Ume is not red, not totally purple. Is Ume more of like a burgundy or brownish purple? I remember it being like a dark color. It's Haley, how's it going? These are super pretty yellows. Yeah, you know what? We're going like a mustardy palette today. Mustardy orange. What pencil did you order, Hellcat? I'm trying to figure out which pen to put a Pilot 15 nib. Oh, wow. You're tempted to get that red fee for the Pilot 912 spicy? You've definitely been busy, Bart. Just head down, working away. A busy bee. Yes, these are Tombow dual brush pens. And the Tombow Colorless blender, which is what I'm using to transfer color onto paper using a blending palette. So essentially using markers to add the color onto the blending palette and then picking up the color with a colorless blender that has no color on it. And then kind of using it like a paintbrush or, similar to how you would use a paintbrush. Kind of paint the colors on top. So it's great if you like layering colors, and you just want like a softer tone to what you're drawing, or if you're adding color to something you've sketched or that you've drawn. This is kind of a nice way of doing that. And the other reason why you might want to use a colorless blender to add color is if you have sort of in between shades, if you have a yellow and, a mustardy yellow, but you want something in between, or you kind of want to show a little transition between the two colors. This is a great way of doing that, because you can blend on the blending palette. It's called a blending palette because you can blend, you can mix, you can sort of work colors together if you wanted to, and mix colors too. And it's great for, coloring something in or drawing, but also if you wanted to practice some hand lettering with color, you could use this because it is, a brush tip. It's not as flexible as a paintbrush. It is a little bit rigid in that way, but that makes it great for hand lettering or something that you have to have form to it, versus a paintbrush that kind of is super, super flexible. So I think I'm good with the colors here. And so as I mentioned before, if you have color on your colorless blender that you just, you want to move on, then just draw on a blending palette or something very smooth, a smooth type of paper that will transfer the color off. And it's essentially like self-cleaning or cleaning the brush tip. And then you can work with different colors that way. And usually when I do this, you'll see that I try and use the lightest color first, and then I layer a darker color on top. That way you can play around with layers and texture and making it look a little bit more realistic than just having like one color that, you use a marker for. It just makes it a little bit more interesting to me. It makes it a little fun too, if I'm being honest. Yeah, no problem, Bailey. To you, it looks burgundy brown, spicy. Okay, yeah, me too, I think. Do you watercolor too? I do. I do a lot more. I sort of started, doing floral artwork with watercolor paints. And then I incorporated fountain pen inks because the painting process of using watercolor paints and fountain pen inks is pretty similar, in that they're essentially water-based for the most part. And the techniques that you use with watercolor paints, you can also transfer to fountain pen ink painting. But using this technique is just less of a mess. It's easier to clean up. It's more portable. So all you need are brush pens and a colorless blender, or even a paintbrush. Like if you don't have one of these, it's fine. You can even use a laminated piece of paper, right? Like something that's laminated or a shiny sort of surface that you can draw on top of with water-based brush pens or markers. And then you just use a paintbrush and very, very little bit of water to do some light painting, or, have like a paint wash or something like that. So similar type of techniques. A Kuratoga dive. Oh, yeah. Well, it's definitely more on the expensive pencil side. Some of the Chroma Shader Manias are very meh and use... Okay. Maybe that's why I haven't tried them all. But the ones that I've tried are really good. Don't miss out Waterman Tender Purple. That's one pretty purple. My consensus on purple. My thoughts on purple are I should use them more than I do. And it's I know this about myself. I'm not drawn to true purple. I tend to go with a blurple, so like a purple that leans blue, or a purple that leans more magenta, pinkish. So I'm always kind of like the in-between shades with purple. I don't like I'm not a huge fan of like super, super purple. And it's weird because for like painting and like purple flowers are really pretty. But I think when it comes to writing, something about that like shade, I'm not drawn to it. So instead, I usually just go with blue, or I go with something else. So intentionally, I need to be a little bit more open to purple colors or purple inks that are more like true purples instead of like the off shades. You love the flowers? That's awesome, Indy. We'll see how they turn out. But so far, they look pretty good. They're also really nice just in person. I don't know if I've seen orange Ranunculus flowers. They're very similar to roses in this photo anyways, but I've seen like different colors, but maybe not orange or yellow orange. You've always passed by Tom Studio inks because I don't like the pens. Bailey. I have 3 Tom Studio inks that I really like. And actually one of them is like a deep purple. And I got them at a pen show. And they are really nice inks. They're like, similar to like standard Diamine or something like that. So... You have a meeting, you may be back, Hellcat. We'll be here for a little while, so hopefully you can get back. But have a good meeting. Speaking about blue, you found your blue. Oh, and Rillium. Okay. Wow, that is a blue. Blue ringed octopus blue. Ooh, I like the octopus. That is a bright blue. That's like a, yeah. That's like a turquoise blue almost. It's very nice and bright. Vibrant electric blue. There we go. That's a nice way of describing it. You've had orange ones in your yard? That's awesome, Fountain Pen News. They're really pretty. I would love to see these. I hate standard blue in general and black too. Okay. Yeah, it reminds you of school. Yeah. I think that's why I tend to stay away from like royal blue. Not necessarily like the baby blue or turquoise blue, but more of the like very deep blue. Probably because it does remind me of school and like using a ballpoint pen. So I'm like, I think I'm good with like true blues. I don't know, but I like all shades of blue. Tom's is Diamine. Okay, I've heard that. I don't know if it was ever like confirmed, So I don't want to pass on, I don't want to pass on something that wasn't 100%, but I have heard that. I like diamine, so. You just watched all your blue inks on several different papers. That's cool, Archaeopen. What a project. Yeah. How many different papers do you use? Because that can be a lot. You're running purple pizzazz in the black 809 and love it. Ah, Zodiac. That sounds good. They usually come in a mix of colors. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, aqua blue is nice. Anything that leans towards like a teal or green, I think is like my sweet spot. Like I'm always drawn to those shades for always, like, even if I have it, I'm always like, oh, this is a nice shade. Like, no, I already have that ink or that shade or similar to it. Anyways. Yeah. Yeah, we have heard. Ackerman is diamine too. Oh, yeah, I think I heard that recently as well. Someone said that. I don't know where, but again, I don't know if it's confirmed or like, but people are saying it. Much like any other factors where some items are labeled for a certain brand. Yeah, some labels are labeled for another. Are we talking about Muji? The Muji preppies? Yeah, Tom's and several other ink makers. Okay. I mean, it makes sense, right? Like, based out of the UK and easier to access, I guess, too. Something like 5 or 6 papers? Oh my goodness. That sounds like a lot. But also something about swatching in like a, you kind of have your process or whatever. Once you do it a few times, it's like, okay, just get into the rhythm. Yeah, I feel like, Bailey, I think you're right. It's just like their color combinations or similar to when, brands do collabs, right? Like they get to sort of pick out the formulation in terms of shade, secondary properties, something like that, I would imagine. Yeah. View Corona, Tomoe River, Life Bank, Canopus, Iroful. Oh, awesome. Yeah, those are really... I feel like those are a variety. Like, a variety enough that you can get a good sense of the ink properties. So those are good options. Also, Octopus Ink, they manufacture inks with other companies. Okay, interesting. Yeah. Bar turned your wife to Tumultuous Tides to match the Zodiac. Yeah, that's Tumultuous Tides is a nice teal. It's a bright ink. It's nice. The Ackerman bottle. Yeah, I don't have one. I really want one. I feel like my collection will not be complete until I have like one of those really cool bottles. I don't even care what the shade of ink is. No, I do kind of care. Yeah, Tumultuous Tides is Ferris Wheel Press. And it's a shimmer ink, right? I think. You love Diamine inks, Mark? Yeah. Your favorite company for ink? Interesting. It's definitely like a fundamental brand, I feel like. Like, you have to have tried a Diamine ink at some point. They're just they have such a variety. Depending where you are, too. It might not be an expensive ink to get. Yeah, let Bailey try the inks first and then just go with what she recommends. Oh, and Graphilo, okay. View Corona is one of those papers I'm very curious about because I don't know if I've tried it. I don't have any. I may have tried it before. Probably at a pen show or something, but I don't remember exactly what it was like. And it definitely piques my interest. Because I've heard a lot more about View Corona lately. Your favorite company for ink is Pilot, not because they're the best. They were your first. Yeah. You can easily find them. Yeah. I don't know if Pilot inks are my favorite brand of inks. But they are the inks that I probably turn to when I'm testing a pen, because I've never had an issue with Pilot inks, especially Irishizuku. So when I'm testing a nib or a pen where I'm like, I just need a reliable, good ink that I like looking at, similar to like a Waterman or, it's one of those, it's like the Tsukiyo that I use in that pen. Vanessa has for around 40. Okay. Graffilo is your favorite paper. Spicy? It's not cheap though? None of them are really that cheap. But there is like a spectrum of how much you want to pay for depending on the paper. Canopus rules. Yeah. Tell them about the Alexandrite from Diamine. Ooh, yeah. You know what? I haven't painted with that lately, Bart. I need to take that out. I still have your sample, and yeah, it is an ink. It's a fun one. I don't know. It's more like the inks that Diamine, you're like, whoa. It's not standard. It's like something they push. I guess similar to when they do ink vent. They try, different formulations for scented and chromo shaders or, yeah. The funny thing is Bailey ends up not liking an ink. I probably will not like it. You know what? That is a good standard. Like, that is a good... Does Bailey like it? And if not, you may not like it. Yes, Tsukiyo is my blue-black. But also probably because Tsukiyo was one of the first... one of my initial inks that I got. It wasn't one of my first, but it was sort of in the batch of when I was trying different types of inks, and I was sticking with, safe shades. I knew, blue blacks are among the types of colors that I like or shades that I like. And so Tsukiyo was like one of my first ones in that color family. And right away I was like, you know what? I love this ink. It's so reliable and just works consistently. I've never had an issue with it, regardless of what pen I threw it into. So it's beautiful, but it's not dark enough to be your favorite blue-black. What is your favorite blue-black magical quill? Yes, 33 euros for a freaking... That's rough. I mean, make that notebook last. Use the notebook for something that you're not going to do too often. But when you do, you really enjoy the paper. Similar to like doing this, like use it as a sketchbook or like a drawing practice book or something. These leaves are interesting. And that's another thing I like to practice is different shapes of leaves, because I tend to do the same sort of, just the default stock leaf shape. And it's really good to practice different shapes, and even if they don't look like something you necessarily see all the time. Okay, I'm gonna leave it at that. So now that I have some color, I think I'm going to add a little bit more lightness, light color. Directly to the paper. And then a little bit of center here. Okay. Cool. VH2D, You Live Diamine, Robert Oster, Vinta, Van Diemen's, Mont Blanc, KWZ, Kobe, Tatcha, Colorverse, Wet Pen, Detrimentus. You like them all. You have like a variety in there, which is really nice. Do you also like Sailor? Because we like Kobe and Tatcha. I need to try Tatcha for sure. Wet Pen, even though it's not as easily accessible. Yeah, I do like Colorverse. Vinta's nice. Robert Oster, good one. Diamine. Van Diemen's. I don't know if I think I have tried a couple samples. Tsukio has a special meaning. It translates to moonlight and the color is close to that. Oh, okay. Also from Soft Games, there's a Moonlight Blade weapon. You love that. That's awesome. Yeah, that is a nice connection to have. Produce a blue-black slash. Ooh, I like that. Yeah, it's coincidental. That's very cool. For blue-blacks, I'm kind of loving the Hanamu. Sailor Subuku is probably the top. Yeah, that's a good one. Suboku. Yeah, you like the story that Tsukio holds. There's a connection. I like that. Yeah, teal leaning blue-black for a weapon effect. That is so cool. I like it. You love the shading and depth in the flowers. Thanks, Fuzzy Turnip. Yeah, I try to practice that as much as I can. It doesn't always turn out as as I hoped it would, but I feel like the more I push myself to try it, the more comfortable I feel with it. So I think over time you kind of tend to pick up a little bit more about the color, how it sort of varies depending on shadow and light and stuff. So the more practice you can get in doing that, it just feels like it builds confidence. So You only have a few sailor inks? Yeah. I don't know if you need that many. So after I do my practice in terms of just adding color and shapes, you can of course leave it like this. There's nothing wrong with this. But I like to work on my line work. And the way I do it is by using a fine liner. This one is the 005, the Tombow dual drawing pen, the Tombow drawing pen. And the 005, if you can see, is their finest point available. And I like it because I can then practice the lines of what I see and add a little bit more detail that way as well. And it sort of breaks up the color blocks that I have. Where it's a little bit darker or a little bit lighter, I like to add a little bit of context of like why. It could be a petal that's kind of, curling in or curling out or something like that. And it's just it keeps me interested. It's an interesting way for me to study something like this by trying to capture that in line work. So while when I do this in an abstract way, I try not to spend too much time on lines because I like to kind of go with the flow on that. But when I'm drawing from reference, I try and spend a little bit more time figuring out what these petals are doing. And so depending on that, what shape they make. And again, it's for muscle memory. And it's also for, in the future when I'm trying to draw this just from, trying to draw freehand florals, it tends to come a little bit easier to me. And you can also get some of the lines, directional lines, to show what the petals are doing. That might be an easier way too. And I also like to use a really fine point or fine liner because I don't want to take away from the color that I've added. So this way I can add lines, but the black line doesn't sort of take over. Another way around that is you can use like a brown fine liner or something like that, but I do like a black fine liner. So really interesting thing about these petals are they make the circular shape. So the petals that are, together, they're very tightly formed as they get closer to the center of the flower. And as they move away, they sort of unfurl a little bit and there's space in between them. But they still make this circular shape. And so drawing that is interesting because you can just keep moving in a circular shape by drawing each petal and moving around the center. And so, as you move outward, there's a little bit more space you can draw in. But an easy way of drawing it is just to keep moving counterclockwise and just drawing those lines. You've made good progress. I've been doing a little bit of talking, so I got distracted. But yeah, your hands, you need a break, definitely. Especially when you're just doing stuff. Laundry and things. Oh, yeah. I don't look at brands. Better look at individual inks. Yeah, that's a good way of doing it, Spicy. Even Noodler's got nice inks. No. No comment. But to each their own. Did you happen to try any new inks? Bailey. Oh, yeah, you got the jellyfish one. I'm curious to hear about what you think, Bailey. The jellyfish aquarium. Because I have now, when I initially I got it at the SF Stationery Fest. And so when I did, I did the unboxing, and then the first thing I did with it was paint with it. Because that's why I bought it. I love the blue shade with the dual shimmer. Right, so it's a white purple shimmer, but it looks like silver. It almost has a silvery effect to it, which I think mimics the whole idea of jellyfish in an aquarium so well. I think that's super smart. And so I was curious about what it would look like, if you just put like a lot down on paper. And so painting with it, I really enjoyed it. And then I inked it up in my Franklin Christoph with a monoline nib because it's just so juicy. And I think those types of inks you have to kind of use with a nib that would allow for those properties to come out or to kind of let them shine. And so it's been interesting using it in a monoline to write with because it's a saturated version when I first start writing with it. So it's like a dark blue with a bit of shimmer, but it almost looks like sheen. And it doesn't dry. Like it just takes forever to dry. And I think there was one entry where I wrote it and it was like a day later I smudged it a little bit and I was like, oh, great. But then as you keep writing, especially if you're doing long form writing, so if you keep writing with it in one session, it lightens up a lot. And so by the end, it's like really light blue, which is really, really nice. So yeah, I've been enjoying it, but also very intrigued by just what is happening with that ink. So I'd love to hear what you think after you kind of have some time to play with it or write with it too. You did show a couple of new ones on your YouTube channel. Oh, awesome. Kitty Inkpot and Ostrich Ink. I'm curious about those ones. I don't have any of those. I'll take a look later. No worries, Spicy Miso. You're poking fun. You're also regretting your life choices for May's currently inked. Oh, okay. You regret using Van Diemen's Luna Moth. It's so light. Oh, okay. Interesting. Yeah, I can't do light inks for writing. Even the ones that dry a light color or as you're using it, it's a light color, but then it dries a darker version of that shade. I just can't. Like while I'm writing, I need to see what I'm writing. I have trouble with them sometimes. You should do Snapdragon sometime. I saw some recently. I forgot about the cool flower. Oh, Snapdragons. Let me write that down. I'll look those up. Momiji is a nice pink red with some gold sheen. Yeah, check out Bailey's YouTube channel. I should rephrase what I meant earlier. More like they're pretty to look at, but considering they're so inconsistent. Yeah, behave badly. They're quite bad in my metric. Okay, I get it. I got you, Spicy Miso. I get what you're saying. But thank you for clarifying as well. I like Momiji, but it's so bright I don't use it much. Yeah. It is a bright color, right? If I can remember it correctly. I don't know, these leaf shapes are throwing me a little bit. They're like, I don't know. It's okay. Okay. Let's swatch colors. I'm gonna try and line this up a little bit so it's not uneven. Okay. So we have 993. Zero 2 6 1 3 3 and 1 7 7. All right. Little less orangey. I probably should have picked a more orangey color. Papa Gal! How's it going, friend? Thanks so much for the sub. I appreciate you. Yes, welcome in. I'm glad you made it. So I'm drawing this Ranunculus. And yeah, I think I should have gone with sort of a brighter orange to capture a little bit more of the color depth, but it's okay. Kind of went with a lighter version. Next time I'll pick a more orangey marker. My time is better wasted here where we have fun and I plan to ship you a kiwi, right, Spicy? It's always more fun this way. I was gifted golden brown. Mine behaved okay, but I'm not getting one. That's for sure. Yeah. I don't want to find out the hard way what happens to my pens. Yeah. Or if you have like throwaway pens or cheaper pens, you could get away with doing it, but yeah. That's how I feel. It's just, it's a waste of time for me. I just don't want to play around with quality of inks and stuff. Hype train? What? Oh, it's very pretty. Thanks, Red Kite. The plant is really, really nice. Yeah. I think they're more of Ranunculus in this book actually, but different colorways. So I can always try and find more, but I do like this shape and it reminded me of a rose. Like when I first looked at it, I was like, is that a rose? I like the shape. It's also a little challenging to draw. because just of how intricate those petals can be. And so that's why drawing a rose makes me nervous sometimes, because I don't know if I can, it's kind of a 50-50 on how close I can capture those petals. So sometimes it looks accurate, sometimes it kind of doesn't look 3D or something like that. So, but it's always good to practice. And if you don't like it, you move on, right? Like, that's what we do. We move on. And then just kind of pick up the different techniques or the different lines that, you're practicing and how it feels. And oftentimes if I feel uncomfortable drawing something because I just don't feel confident that it's going to look the way I want it to, then it's always one of those things that I can work on again next time. Just remembering that, there was something about it that I need to work on. And, trying to practice different shapes and different ways that a petal or a flower can look, I think is super, super interesting. So now we're going to do it again, but we're going to do it in a different notebook. Olive Octopus, thanks so much for the sub. Lurk. Hype Lurk. Well, welcome. Welcome in. Enjoy your lurk. I hope things are going well. And that you had a good birthday. At first glance, you also thought it was a rose. Yeah, okay, so it's not just me. I was like, oh, that's a pretty orange rose. It's not. It's pretty, but it's not a rose. Okay, so like I mentioned previously, or at the start of stream, I like to practice drawing the same flower, but with different supplies or different tools and in different notebooks. So I tried, or I practiced using brush markers in the Canopus note. And so now I'm going to pivot and I'm going to use, let's do this. I'm going to use colored pencils in my MD paper cotton notebook. Okay, so got my colored pencils, and I already picked out some colors that I think will work well with what I'm seeing here. So this colorway, and I'm gonna do it pretty much the same way as I did my drawing here, is start with a color first, or colors, and put down an outline of shapes that I'm seeing, the composition of where those flowers are gonna be. And then when I'm done, I'm going to add a little bit more detail using my fine liner. So same kind of practice, just using different stationery tools that you might have. So like I said, on cotton paper, I really like the feel of pencils. Just the way it sort of looks and the way that it grabs that color. So I think that's what this notebook is really, really good for. I'll do more practicing of that. Yeah, did you have a good birthday? Everyone wants to know. Octopus themed ink and Androlium. Yeah, that's awesome. All right. So similar to the way I approached adding color with markers, I started with the lighter colors first and then layered darker colors on top. I'm going to do the same thing with pencils. Again, because with lighter colors, if I feel like there's a mistake or if I want to reposition something, it's a little bit easier to do that than to start with a dark color and then kind of be stuck keeping it there. And then the other thing too is it's easier to blend and add color on top of a lighter color than it is if I had a dark color first. So let's get wild and step out of our comfort zones. That's exactly right. That's wild. Oh, this smells like cola? Oh, interesting. Does it though? Or is it playing tricks with your mind? Scent cola. Color cola brown. That's kind of fun. I'm not a fan of scented inks, but, you know, depends on what it smells like, I guess. You're going to attempt to make some clay earrings? That's awesome, Bailey. That sounds like a fun project. Blue ringed octopus is on your list of possibles. Yeah, it's fun. It's a fun color. Should I gamble and buy the cola ink? You should do it, Spicy Miso, and then tell us. Report back. Let us know how it is. Yeah, do it. Do it in the name of science for us. You just had lunch with your parents. Oh, that's awesome. Before they head home. Yeah. You had some good quality time. You went out for dinner on your birthday. Otherwise, it's good. Been busy. Yeah. You've had a lot of work and stuff to do as well. But I'm glad you enjoyed. I'm glad you had a good birthday and a good week with your parents. Has a picture of cola too. Yeah. You're traumatized. Oh no. We won't bring it up then. We won't bring it up. Speaking of family, my mother-in-law is coming for a visit from New Zealand. So my in-laws are based in New Zealand because that's where my husband is from. And so grandma will be here this weekend and for 2 weeks. And so my kids are obviously very excited, but they refuse to clean their stuff, like just sort through their toys and things. And like, grandma's gonna she's gonna judge you based on where your toys are. don't want her stepping on these things. But you know, they'll get into the cleaning mode right before she comes, which is always last minute cleaning. But I'll eventually have to, sometime this week, have to go through and just move their things. So it doesn't look like, you know, a tornado went through our house and just dropped off pieces of toys everywhere. It's a little bit more brown. I'm going to go grab an orange pencil crayon. Okay, definitely want a little bit more orange. So let's go with that. My grandma would always threaten to throw our toys away. I do that already. Not that I'd throw them away, but I'll put these away and then you won't find them. So funny. Cuttlefish brown. Cephalopod rabbit hole. Yeah. You know you're the one that have to clean, right? Always. Kids and cleaning. But at the same time, I don't like to put their stuff away or, sort them because even in their chaos, they have a system. So randomly, one of my kids would be like, "Where is that fan that I put here?" And it's like a random place, and I'm like, "Well, it's not there because it wasn't meant to be. It's not its spot. Like that's not where it belongs." And yet they know that one random item from a year ago that they put in that random spot. So I always have to, yeah, I always be aware of where I put things because it's a whole thing. I used to be the one that had to make sure they cleaned after themselves. Oh, it is rough. I know, it's like, just put your things away. Yeah. Kid You was the devil that roamed the earth. Spicy miso. Oh my goodness. Are you any better now? Like with, cleaning and putting away your stuff and organization? So funny. Though it's funny when anyone in my house is looking for something, I'm always the one they ask. Because I'm always like, have you checked that drawer that, you put random things in? Because it's probably in there. And more often than not, it's in there. It's in wherever, like some random drawer or box. Okay. You're a clean freak? You can't stand to see dust. Wow, that's awesome that you keep things clean, right? Yeah, look at you now. Look how far you've come. You're the opposite. It's probably your ADHD being hyperactive, yeah. Yeah, the things that, you tend to focus on. And sometimes can be cleanliness and just where things are. And yeah, allergies to dust is not fun. No, I can't let things get too dusty or just let things sit for too long, because then it's going to activate my allergies when I try and clean it or try and dust things off. Dust on your skin makes you scratch your skin a lot. Oh, interesting. Yeah, you have to wear a mask when you dust. Yeah. I used to have to do that too, especially when there was cat hair. Not so much now, but it still can get a bit much. Okay. I do the same when needed, but otherwise I do it every 2 to 3 days to avoid it as much as possible. Yeah. You're back. What did you miss, Hellcat? We basically moved on to another drawing. So I'm finishing this up. I hope you had a good meeting. This is in the MD Cotton Notebook. And I used Tombow Irojiten colored pencils, basically to add color, do some blending a little bit. And then I just added a bit more detail using a fine liner. So I find doing the same technique as I did with the markers a little bit more challenging with colored pencils. Not gonna lie. Because layering colored pencils is not the same as, painting or using markers where they, freely flow into each other, or they're, smoother to blend. It's not as easy with colored pencils because you're just, stacking color on top of color. You're not actually blending per se, right? Even though these colored pencils are pretty, they're soft-ish, and they are creamy, so they're a little bit smoother than some other, colored pencils you can get where you end up just scratching color into another color, if that makes sense. But still, the feeling of putting down color and then just kind of, adding another color is a little bit different when you're using colored pencils versus, a marker or paints. It's a little bit easier to do it this way, but still, I find that because I have these tools, it's good for me to practice with them and just push myself a little bit to challenge, using different mediums and different papers too, because they do feel different, right? They feel, they contrast each other quite a bit, especially if you're using something like Canopus where it's, nicely coated, it's smoother than, your average kind of paper. And then you have cotton paper, which is soft, but it has more texture to it. Which you will feel with pencils. So, but both ways are very interesting, and it's kind of a nice, way to play with color, to play with different techniques of capturing something that you see, and then trying to mimic it, or copy the lines, your way. So using your style to do it, it's interesting. No, these are not watercolor pencils. They're just regular colored pencils. I wish they did watercolor pencils. Your husband just drove 90 minutes to Putnam to pick stuff up? That's amazing. He's a bee's knees? Yeah, I would say. That is so cool. The fine liner is a mono drawing pen, also from Tombow. I'm so glad you caught this stream. Yay! I'm so glad you're here too. I'd have been sad the rest of the day. You had terrible weather and oh no, some of your coworkers' places flooded. Oh no. I hope they can easily resolve that. Hopefully. Flooding is not fun. A lot of damage comes with that. Yeah, from Putnam. Do I want this? What is it, spicy? Steeler. Oh, yes, I saw. Oh, no, that's not what I was thinking. Never mind. This Robert Oster and Stilo and Stile Tempest Sky ink. That is nice. Ooh. A blurple. Gray purple with shading. Interesting. Yeah, it is. It is more. Oh, yeah. Okay. I see now. That's very nice. Ooh. Tempest Sky. That's definitely a shade that I like. No, don't ship it if it's going to cost you. I've to be honest, I've put a pause on shipping out ink samples and stuff like that and doing swaps, ink sample swaps, because shipping is just ridiculous right now. And there's delays and just, issues with getting things moving. That like honestly I'm good just holding off until things kind of settle down a little bit. You want the ink? Yeah, not as good as Roman bronze oxidation. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I love that Penrum has a shop front, as a storefront. Because they carry so many things. Like when you see them at pen shows, they have so much on their table that it's like, if I was able to get there, anyways, if I was able to get to, their shop, I'd spend some time just looking through all the things that they have. Let's see. You go. Oh, this is a nice color. Oh. Okay, we're just gonna ignore that. Yeah, that is nice. I like that. Oh wait, was that the same one? Bronze oxidation. Anyways, I like that ink. That's a pretty color, yeah. You thought you can escape the Overlord at Kevy. Apparently not. Yeah. Your top ink ever. Awesome. I love seeing what people are like really appreciate. The shades and colors that they're drawn to is really interesting to me. His secondhand pens, very dangerous. Yeah. Yeah, I don't spend too much time looking at that stuff. I spend more time looking at the tester pens to try out the different nibs. But yeah, I can see that. Yeah, you have to figure out the logistics. You have a modified 912 and an unmodified. Oh, interesting. Yeah. Get a second one. First one stays stock. That might be the way to go. If you want to try out a modified one. But have one that's true to form. For sure. Let's see. What else do I have? First one is your favorite pen. Yeah. Oh, it was your 30th birthday to yourself. Birthday gift. Yeah. Matthew Chen. You have to reprint your clay stamp. Oh no. Yeah, you should put them in the container so your cat doesn't snatch it. Oh. I hope your cat didn't eat it. You use your Pilot every day? Yeah. It's Pilots are one of those brands. I could use a Pilot pen every day. Well, I do. I use my 823 for like journaling about my day or whatever. But yeah, I think Pilot's one of those like an everyday kind of user. Yeah, an amazing gift. Thankfully, you can just reprint one. Exactly. Oh, Matthew isn't accepting orders either. Tough. You're using vintage at the moment. Interesting. Yeah, you're a lefty, spicy miso. Mm. Kind of fights with the hobby. Yeah. I feel like with fountain pens too, it's a good reminder to kind of slow down as well, right? To be a little bit more intentional. Like I find for me personally, fountain pens are really helpful in adjusting my grip. Because all through school, having to use ballpoint pens, and sometimes gel pens if I had a choice, but using ballpoint pens and pencils, I found that I just have like a really tight grip sometimes and I push really hard. And so after I started using fountain pens, because I obviously don't want to damage my pens, it was like an intentional having to, you know, be aware of how hard I was pressing on the pen, but also how tight I was gripping it. It's like just loosen your grip, you know. And over time, I feel like that changed not necessarily my writing style, but maybe a little bit, right? In that it doesn't have the same look because it's just a little bit more relaxed, maybe. But also the way I was writing changed. Just because it's not the same tool I'm using. So using different tools, and especially with fountain pens where I'm like very well aware of not wanting to damage it. I think that was helpful too. Vintage Schaefer and a vintage Aurora. Nice. And how are you liking them? If you don't underwrite, it's not fun. Yeah. That's interesting. Getting your house somewhat in order before the pen show. Are you prepared for the pen show, Bailey? Have you packed the things that you want to take with you? It's always kind of fun, I find, trying to plan what stationery to take to a pen show. Like, do you take pens so that people can try them? Do you take, like an ink sample kit where you can, give out and also, or it's like swatch inks and ink samples? And then do you take a journal? How are you capturing all the things that are happening? Are you going to rely on pictures and your memory? So much laundry. Yeah. Smudging was the biggest problem. I was relegated to fast drying ink. Yeah. You adjusted that way. Okay. You're a righty that writes like a lefty. Oh, interesting. I have a tendency to grip pens harder and smear inks. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Aurora is buttery smooth. That's a nice experience. Check with Mike Masuyama. You started packing your stationery, but nothing on the clothes front. I mean, priorities, right? It's true. Like, what? People don't care what you're wearing. People care what pens you have. Honestly, I think most of my suitcase is pretty much like stationery, things I give away, workshop supplies if I'm teaching a workshop, and then there's space, right, for things to bring back. Always have room in your suitcase. So you don't want unless you're going to get rid of things that are in your suitcase and just replace that space with things that you get. You need to get your med sorted and that stuff before you plan stationery. Okay, so you have real priorities then. We're talking about stationary priorities, which can sometimes be, a lot to think about. And also the fun things to think about, right? Like it's like, which notebooks? You can take all 10 of your planners and journals and whatever, but which ones are the important ones that you want to take? It can be fun, but also, a little nerve-wracking. Especially if you want to take all the things, but you only have a certain amount of space, and you obviously don't want to take your whole, like, all of your stationery supplies and collections. You're worried about the suitcase space. Yeah. Yes. They keep making the carry-on bag size smaller. What is that? Like, the stock size of a standard carry-on suitcase is no longer the carry-on size. Am I, like, right? That is a thing. I feel like when you go and buy, like, a carry-on suitcase, that's not actually the size of what the airlines let you take on. Or it has to be like, I don't know, it has to be like malleable or something. Like, you're taking a backpack or a tote or a duffel bag or something like that. Like, it has to be something that can, like, squeeze into. I don't know. I don't know about these hard shell carry-on suitcases. Every year, I feel like it just gets smaller and smaller in terms of what you're allowed to carry on. It's kind of crazy. And ask a beginner question. Yes, chat can help you. The angle of my pen versus the alignment. Chat, what do we think? What do we think about the angles Spicy's talking about? Yeah, what is a carry-on size then? It's a backpack, Bailey. Literally, it is a backpack. The carry-on suitcases, like from a few years ago, probably would not be allowed now. Like, I think they just phase them out so quick. And just in case you don't, I think it varies by the airline that you take, depending on, I don't know, the plane size or whatever. I don't know how they, the dimensions of it. I think if you're taking bigger planes, then it might not be an issue as much as like, the smaller the planes are now. It's like they have less space, the dimensions are different, you can only put a backpack in. I don't know. Yeah, because I have seen people at the airport get into trouble with that. It's just like, it looks like it's a carry-on size, but it doesn't fit into the tester dimensions that they have. And so they're asked to, like, essentially check them at the gate. Which you could also do, but depending on what you have in there. Yeah, forcing you to have a checked bag, then having to wait for it, and who knows what's happening in that. Like, if you check your ink bottles and stuff, who knows what's happening. Make sure you have everything bubble wrapped. Thankfully, this is a pen show, not a planner conference. Pens are less bulky. That's exactly right. You can have them in a little pouch with you. You get mostly ink. Yeah. Then definitely take, ways to secure them. Yeah, maybe a picture will be helpful. Because words sometimes. Yeah, for the SF Stationery Fest, I only took carry-on luggage with me. And it was just going to be like way more expensive to have a checked bag. And so I had to be very mindful about like what I was taking with me. Obviously, not a lot of clothes, but which is fine for a weekend. But definitely how I sort of package things or pack things in. And it helped that I wasn't taking I wasn't taking like inks or anything like that. But I was taking, my journals. So I had notebooks on me, and stationery supplies, pens, markers, brush pens and stuff like that. So words are hard. Trying to picture something by description only. It's like, The problems these airlines have created is people are only trying to carry on bags to avoid the checked bag fee. Yeah. And the space has gone so fast. Yeah. I mean, at least from what I've seen anyways, at least they're, what's it called? They're checking the sizes. Like they have the rule, but it's one thing to have a rule, like in terms of size you're allowed and allowances for, how many bags you bring, which also I've seen people try to carry on like 3-4 bags. Just because they're all different sizes does not mean, but enforcing that rule, I've seen that happen a lot more recently too, which is good because people will try, they'll try and bring a bunch of bags and then take up all the space that's available for carry-ons. Because yeah, you're right. Like, who wants to pay for checked bags? Like, it costs so much. And if you're just, going for a weekend or going on a trip or whatever, and you don't need that much stuff, you try and get away with a carry-on, but, don't bend the rules either. Follow the rules, but, the rules sometimes are tough. I think it is moving to a backpack size carry-on, so at some point you're gonna have to ditch those roller suitcases or whatever. Okay, you're exactly at 90 degrees in regards to line alignment. Here we go. Okay. You have nice writing. Okay. Not versus paper. I definitely need to write at an angle. Yeah. I agree, I think. Sorry, what's your question again, Spicy? I forgot already. Repeat your question, please. Oh, have a good one, Bailey. I'm so glad you were able to join. I'll see you next time and in other streams. You have to pay to choose your seat too. Yes. Which sometimes I've lucked out in most cases in that scenario, because especially if I'm like, going to a pen show or something, they tend to just throw me into the window seat. I'm like, yeah, I'm good with that. But yeah, sometimes, you want to pick a seat. And then they got you paying for that. When I went to Denver, I carried a sling and a travel backpack. That's how I like to travel. I don't like to take on a lot of stuff. And I especially don't like to have bulk stuff when I'm traveling by myself, or even if, traveling as a family. It's just like you want to keep it as minimal as possible. At least I do. It's like I just don't want to deal with, having to carry heavy things or bulky items. Southwest will only allow you to have two. One under the seat and one overhead. Yeah, that's the same with Air Canada. But the one overhead is where the sizing is starting to be a little sus. It's like, is this a carry-on suitcase size, or is it a carry-on backpack size or duffel bag? Okay, this picture shows it better. Okay. Everyone be on Brad's stream tomorrow. Definitely. Hijinks. You're exactly 90-degree versus horizontal line. Is it fine to be at 90-degree then? Oh, okay. I see. Wait. Here we go. Oh, yeah. Does that feel awkward to you or no, as a lefty? Because it looks a little awkward. You're making an effort to improve it every day. Yeah. Well, I like your writing. 90 degrees is a little extreme, fountain pen use. The slant of your letters, as well as the fact that you keep your writing is not an issue. So if your pen writes it, totally fine way to hold the pen. Yeah, the inclination angle is at 40 to 60. This is a sacrifice you have to make to write with the FA. Yeah, I mean, if you can do it and it doesn't feel super awkward, then you do it, right? Like, I think for me, I do vary my writing angle. So the way my letters slant, similar to writing in cursive versus printing, depending on the nib sometimes, because I want to get the maximum, I want to make the most of the nib style, versus having it look like my writing, if that makes sense. So if that's how you need to angle it to get that nice writing, but it doesn't feel awkward to you, like if you can do that, then I say go for it. Yeah, everyone is different. Oh, okay, I see. You noticed the other day that people's angles are at 45 degrees. Yeah. Yeah, I'm with Red Kite. Like, try different ways until you feel a comfortable way to hold it. And I would also say, angle your paper. So shift your paper in whatever sort of direction you need to as well. Like, if you do find it awkward to hold it in that position with the paper at that angle, then try shifting the paper a little bit as well. If that, if that makes it more noticeable for you holding the pen. And honestly, I don't know at what angle people hold things. Like, I know there's specific angles for like calligraphy, especially if you're writing in a certain script. So there are, rules in terms of that. But just using a fountain pen with whatever style of writing you use, I think it is about comfort. Like, if you find that fine to write like that, then write at that angle, right? Your paper is at 90 degrees too. Yeah. As long as the ink flow works and it's not like, as long as you're using the optimal, like you feel like the nib is handling it optimally. It's not like you're pushing the nib in a direction it doesn't want to go into. And then in that case, you would notice because it would be scratchy or you wouldn't get ink on the paper, right? Yeah, exactly. The paper shift can help as well, potentially. You're a little higher than 50, probably 55. If you were using a Waverly nib, you wouldn't care. Yeah, it's a little different with like flexible nibs or, nibs where the line variation depends on the angle that you're holding it at. And so like for me, if I'm using like, for example, like a Naginata style of nib, and I know I get the broadest line at a lower angle, then my style of writing will change based on how I'm using the nib. And I'm okay with that. And so, for the purpose of using that nib to get the line width that I want, I'll write in cursive or I'll write, in a different style. Versus if I'm printing and I tend to write at a higher angle when I'm printing, then I can use a style of nib that I can use with a higher angle. For me, it depends on the pen, and I have to change the angle. Oh yeah, I just basically said what Papa Gal wrote. I didn't copy you, but that's exactly it. Depends on the nib. Depends on the pen. Depends on the nib. And then I just adjust my expectations of the kind of writing I'm going to use. Yeah, you have to watch for smearing with how you write. Yeah. Good morning, Biapple. Hey, it's 11:30. That counts. It's not noon quite yet. This hobby is hostile to lefties. I mean, have you tried a left oblique nib? I'm just curious because I have one and I got it in a vintage Parker. And I love the pen. I love the nib, but a left oblique is not an optimal nib for me as a righty. And the way I hold my pens as a righty. And so I've had to adjust the way that I write with that nib to get the line that I want with it. And to make it feel comfortable and, get the ink flow and stuff. But it's just like, I love the pen. And so, I kind of adjust things just for that pen. I find angle up or down matters as well. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I love my vanishing point journaling at home. Writing client notes in the car with a diplomat arrow. Yeah. Yeah, it does depend. It can vary. It's very true. Yeah, it is what it is. I know. It is what it is. We have to adjust, depending on, like I said, like some of us grip pens really hard, or, we tend to write with a heavier hand and push down on, the nib when we shouldn't. And it's like, it's a learning experience as well. Like trying to adjust based on the kind of feedback or what's happening with the pen as well. The obliques help, but you still need to deal with smudging unless you underwrite. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. It was worth it to learn more about. It's very interesting, for sure. And, just because a pen or nib is meant for a certain purpose doesn't mean that it's right for you. Because, you'll have your unique way of holding a pen. You'll have your unique way of writing and angling it. That even though a certain nib might help for you as a lefty, for example, it doesn't mean it's the optimal nib or pen for you as a lefty, because you will bring your unique style, your way of holding it, etc. to it. So that's what I've found with like working with nib specialists, right? Is why they constantly have the back and forth, like you trying out the nib as they work on it. Is because not only does your writing style, the way you grip something or hold it, the angle matter, it also, your personal preference matters as well. So if you like more feedback, less feedback, you like it smoother, you don't, that will also play into it. And so like with architect nibs, for example, I find that I like mine a little bit more rounded because of the way I hold my pen and write with something or write with a pen. A rounded architect is more to my style. It makes it a little bit smoother, and transitioning from letter to letter, it just feels better. It looks better, I think. So poor you. Yeah, you get to have beautiful pens at home and for work. We feel so bad. Sorry, not sorry. It took you a few days to underwrite properly, but it was well worth the effort. Yeah. Oh, you lost the ability to cursive write, but challenge accepted. That's not going to stop you. Don't give up. I think we know you can do it. I think you can do it. We have faith in you. I think you'll definitely figure it out. And, like Chad has said, like, don't let, just because people say you have to have it at a certain angle, or even if it's the norm, that's how, people tend to hold their pen. It doesn't mean you have to. The only thing you have to do is what the pen tells you to do. If it's scratchy, or it's, ripping up your paper or something like that, or it's bending the nib, like, take those cues from the pen, but otherwise you do you. I don't think anyone's gonna, especially if your writing looks like that, spicy miso, I don't think anyone's gonna say anything. We're not complaining. You started writing in all caps a few years ago. I have no idea why, but I just rock with it. That's awesome. I love that. Yeah, the all caps look is very cool. I like doing it. It takes me a little bit longer to write that way. But anything with practice probably will be faster. So, but I do like varying it. All caps and cursive and printing. We're already outside the norm. Yeah, being left-handed. Yeah. You just have to adjust differently than a right-handed person, I think. And to be fair, it is not made for left-handed people first, which sucks. And one of my daughters has to deal with that because she's left-handed, but I do love all caps writing, but it's too much effort for me. Yeah, I kind of feel the same. It looks really nice, but I have to spend more time doing it. Where I think I'm a little like, I do it every once in a while just because of the style. I want it to be different. And then I jump into my chicken scratch handwriting. Yeah, what does it look like? Big caps and small caps. Spiral notebooks is a good example. You reverse it instead of going from left to right, page turning. I do the opposite. Okay, yeah, of course. That makes sense. All the same size. Gotcha. In college, my set design teacher made us develop illegible block caps, handwriting, and served me well all my life. That's kind of cool. That's very cool. Yeah, all through school, when you write your like notes to your friends and stuff like that, we would have fun with like writing or trying different handwriting styles, block printing, bubble letters, and stuff like that. And when you're a kid, you just do these things for fun. But I realized, as the older you get or whatever, I think that's what sort of got me interested in hand lettering in general, is that like trying out different styles of writing, using different pens and different types of tools, and seeing what visually how they can look different, right? And some people don't care, and they just like they have their way of writing, and that's cool. That's what they stick to. But I think for me, it's like a visual thing when I have different styles of writing, and it's just kind of interesting. So the things we do that eventually kind of folds into the other things you do as an adult, such as handwriting or calligraphy. Might be tough to do it as a kid, but you kind of grow into these things too. And then I write normal things with it, but I can always label things clearly and quickly. Yeah. So it's useful in that way. The spiral will touch my hand and it's annoying so much. It's in the right. Yeah. It's kind of like when you use like a ring binder, and you're writing on the other side of a paper as a right-handed person, or as a left-handed person if you're, using the other side. And that's what turned me off ring binders for a long time, because obviously you use ring binders in school, and I got into ring planners. But it did turn me off for a long time because I just couldn't deal with having to, take out paper just to use the other side of it, and then put it back into rings. And I feel like that's where Plotter really helped, in just that feeling of not having bulky rings in the way. But, not going to say that it's still rings, so it can still be a little annoying, or just, noticeable that it's there. And for some people, it's probably one of those deal breakers, like not being able to use spiral notebooks, or not being able to use rings. Because of that, it touches your hand and, it feels annoying. You don't like ring binders, but this helps. Yeah. Those soft rings by Kokuyo. Oh, okay. That's cool. But using a plotter, I don't feel the rings as much or as intrusive as like large rings used to be. And I think it's just in my mind, like the contrast between the size is what makes the difference. So it's all about like our threshold of like what gets to us, or what sort of triggers us in like, I don't like this versus like, I can use this. It's fine. I don't notice things as much, so that scale is what can sometimes make the difference. You struggle with larger rings and discs. Yeah. Larger rings, if I'm not in it daily, is fine. But if it's like I'm using it as a planner, or, I need to take papers out and then put it back in and take them out, that's when I'm just like, no, I'm good. Soft rings might help. Yeah, I wonder. Now I'm curious. Yeah, well, it's good that there are options anyways for, if there's a certain factor that you don't like about something, there are potential alternatives that you can use. And I think that's really cool. Especially if you like a certain system, but you just don't like the hardware that that comes with it. They're often left-handed. There are even left-handed stores. Yeah. I love these types of stores. Yeah. I came across a left-handed store somewhere. Niagara Falls, maybe. Right? That sounds like something they would have. Where they had like left-handed scissors and like just lefty stuff. And I was like, the amount of things that I didn't realize was optimized to a right-handed person. Like, it was eye-opening. In that, just like little things. Like, I obviously knew scissors are kind of an obvious thing. But there were other things. I remember, like, just, there was a whole store of these things where I was just like, okay. I didn't realize it. And obviously, that's, as a right-handed user, I didn't notice how it could be hard for a left-handed person. But now that I have a kid who's left-handed, I definitely see how things are not optimal for her versus my other kid who's right-handed. So back in school, I had issues with scissors. I was why doesn't it cut paper? Yeah. What's going on with the scissors? It can't be you. Yeah, I know. But I do like that they have left-handed scissors, at least, I guess. Like, maybe not available in as easily. They're not easily found. But yeah, it's just one of those things. Like, you should be able to use these tools, right? Regardless of being right-handed or left-handed. But better teach her to underwrite while she's a kid. She's learning that. I can see her adjusting the way that she writes with pens. And she started using fountain pens. Like, my kids are into fountain pens already. And yeah, I can see how she's adjusted it. And she likes to use shimmer inks. So it's just like she dove right in. And still smudges, it happens. I smudge my inks as a right-handed person, but I definitely have seen how she kind of adjusts her writing style as well. So turn the page to 90 degrees on the right. Yeah. Yeah. You kind of have to play around with that, right? Figure out what works. It is what it is, but hopefully as we sort of evolve in our hobbies and, even with kids at school, hopefully things become more accessible, so that everyone can kind of enjoy the tools that they use, right? Especially with stationery, especially with fountain pens, not having to adjust the way that you naturally do things, just to use a tool. But until then. All right, friends, I am going to head out, do some cleaning probably. But it was really fun to hang out with you. Thanks so much for joining, lurking, or if you're watching the replay, thank you so much for doing that. But yeah, hopefully, and thanks for the chat. Hopefully we've kind of learned a few things, or, at the very least, hopefully you're kind of inspired to take out your stationery and play with them, regardless of what it is. And I will see you this Wednesday, same time, same place. If you're able to join, we'll probably do some painting. I have some more ink samples probably to get through, or, we can take out some inks that I'm already using or that I already have in my collection, and we can explore them a little bit. Otherwise, I will see you in other streams. I don't know if Olive Octopus is back to regular streaming schedule, but Brad will be on, I guess, tomorrow, right? So I will see you there. And follow me on Instagram if you don't already, from Corolla. That's where I'll kind of post updates on when I'm streaming on a weekly basis, and what we're all up to on stream. Show us fancy pens too. Yeah. Yes. Have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful rest of your week. If I don't see you in my stream or other streams, if you're going to the Chicago Pen Show, have fun. We'll talk more about it. But definitely get packing and planning. Meowzilla wants to see fancy pens too. I love that emote. It's hilarious. All right, friends. I appreciate you all. Go play with your stationery. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to others always. Have fun. Have a good week. Bye.